Hi.
Hi, welcome.
Hi again. Welcome. It's been a little while ago, right? We had a few cancellation of our guests. So, um, yeah, this is our ninth gathering. Yay! Finally, we back on. And our guest today, guest speaker will be Ike. He's going
Sure.
to be talking on a little bit on finances and businesses, and maybe touch on a little bit of astrology, which is his background, and we will take it from there. But welcome everybody, and just let's go and have some fun with this today. We're just gonna play a little bit, all right? So um, I'm just gonna introduce us to Grace Between Races again, like normal, and go through the vision and the intentions, and then a little bit about the guidelines, and then Hillary will get into it. Okay, so here we hold space for raw, honest conversations where we can express our experiences about inequality between the races and how we are affected by it. Our visions and intentions are to look at ways in which we can create balance and change through raising conversations about issues that may make us uncomfortable at times. But through this information that we're getting, um, it it helps us to redirect our viewpoint, and perhaps guide us into looking at ways we could create change. Okay, and this change we're looking at is for all of us to bring more balance, rather than just keep doing the same old things and continue to experience the same old things. So these are the intentions that we're holding. I totally, and I think this is, I could speak for all of us here. We're looking, I believe that empowerment is much better than, just staying in the old status quo and just doing the same old thing over and over. And so our intention with Grace Between Races is to help to empower each and every one of us in the gatherings. So I will go into the guidelines a little bit, saying that this gathering is all inclusive. We speak from our heart about our experiences. We honor one another's truth. We should be encouraging and supportive also of others' truth. Be mindful of time and open to receive feedback. And of course, we keep emphasizing from gathering to gathering the importance of celebrating and having a bit of lightness with the information, because obviously we all have our past experiences, and sometimes things might feel very heavy. So we encourage us to kind of take time to self-care and to really experience things with a little bit of a lightness. So with that being said, again, today's topic is a little bit, I mean, what was coming up for me lately is about the importance of um, how we how we support ourselves, both financially and otherwise. And self-sufficiency has always been kind of a struggle for me, because my mindset is more coming from a creative perspective, and how I experience that in society, in where I live. It hasn't always been easy. Um, and so I would like to bring up the topic of sustainability, and how biases in society and um, in biases on the whole, on the whole mindset of coming from academia and business wise, and people who are creative and from other genres, and how they experience sustainability in society.
Mm.
um, I think it's a very important thing, because I'm really gonna look at, I think maybe we could look at the root chakra, because I think survival is so key. When we don't have that sense of security with grounding, we become very off balance, and it affects the whole ecosystem of our body, and how that ties into the way we exist in society, whether we are feel contentment with our lives, or we feel constantly anxious, and all of these things. Anxiety is a big problem in society right now, because people don't feel secure, and at that sense of security. So I think, coming from this perspective, I'm gonna be very raw and very honest, because I'm a single mom who have struggled with the reality of this existence. And I just want feedback from the gatherings, from people, whoever will be watching the video after, to share and to really take some of the point of view, and even bring in your own, and let us know what you think about the points that we're going to be bringing up here in the gathering today. So again, I think it's very valuable, whatever comes up, and shared experience always produces something. So let's hope that it produces some progression, and some new ideas, and different ways of seeing things, so that we could bring about a more holistic and beautiful experience, because I think at the end of the day, we're all looking for that contentment. Okay,
Mhm.
so with that, I'm just gonna just ask us to take a couple deep breaths
Mm.
before I hand it over to Hillary to introduce Isaac. So I would like you to take a deep breath in, a few deep breaths. You count to 4, you hold for 2, and you exhale for 4. And you do that a couple times. And maybe we could focus put our focus on the root chakra. So you breathe in for 4, hold for 2, and exhale for 4. And when you're ready, we open our eyes.
Thank you so much, Anne. That
You're
feels
very
really
welcome.
good. Yeah. Thank you for the beautiful introduction and sharing already quite vulnerably from your heart and your experience. And I have a few um, practices or ways I want to invite us to continue to deepen our presence here together before I introduce Isaac. And I want to start with acknowledging and honoring that we are a part of uh, a lineage, and that lineage was given to me by a local native elder here named Strong Oak. and she teaches a practice called walking in balance. That's a native inspired council practice for restorative justice and reconciliation work. And while we are not sitting in circle together, and while we're not all sharing equally in this space, we are doing a practice of equity in some ways, where not everyone is equal, but we are coming together to bring a rebalancing and honoring voices that that need to be heard, and perspectives that are important to be shared. And in this lineage, we use a talking stick, and I have a talking stick image that we've been using, and we'll use it as simply a way to designate diving into more sacred space together, and having that sacred sharing together. And so I'll pop it up before I transition to Anne again, and then she'll transition us back. So let's see. I'm going to do that right now, Anne, and then you can send it on back to me, and then we'll get into some of the honoring of the elders and ancestors. So hold on a moment as we pop this up and I share the screen.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I just wanted to kind of just say briefly that this gathering is for both Hillary and myself. We feel that it's very important work at this time, and um, this is the reason why we want to continue doing it, is the messages that is coming through, and where the perspective we are coming from. I think it's very valid, but we also would like to have more interactive dialogue with you all out there, to see, to make that connection, to see how we would like your feedback, to see how you feel about what we bring into the table and how we going about stuff. And maybe you could add your perspective, and if you have any ideas that you think might be helpful, you could also pitch it in along the way. So I will pass back the talking stick to Hillary so she could continue her introduction.
Thanks, Anne. And yeah, and you can always post on the Facebook page at any time. Post your ideas, your experience, your stories, your resources, and we look forward to more engagement. So thanks for that encouragement, Anne. And now I want to invite us to go back inside again as we honor our bodies in this space and our presence, and to do a little bit more engagement in grounding and presencing and centering. So I like that breath and that you offered us, in that focus on the root chakra. So I invite us to bring attention to our spine and the base of our spine, and the pressure that we feel on whatever we are sitting or wherever we are, and breathing into that place of contact. And so breathing in for 4 seconds, holding, and then breathing out. And while you're doing this, I invite you to now also imagine yourself receiving your experience, all thoughts, feelings, sensations, knowings, all sounds, and ingesting them at the top of your breath, and then releasing them down through your sits bones into the earth. So doing that a few times. And as you breathe out the next time, I invite you to imagine sending that breath with roots down into the earth. Sending your awareness down consciously, lovingly penetrating the Mother Earth. And then when you breathe in again, receiving her nourishment, receiving her support, and continuing to release and breathe out whatever you're ready to breathe out as you grow these roots down even further. And continue to breathe in her nourishment and support, filling yourself with that earth energy. And then breathing those roots down even more. And I invite you, as we do this breathing, to allow yourself to move. The word is to explore your proprioception, which is about movement as well. So there's interoception, which is about feeling sensations internally, and proprioception is about feeling movement internally. So to continue to breathe in and receive, and breathe out, releasing and growing roots down as you become more present and available to noticing sensation, allowing yourself to have all your thoughts, all your feelings, all your knowings, and to feel as supported as you can by this Mother Earth. And on the next breath, I invite you to breathe this nourishment from the earth up into your heart more specifically. And to notice how that nourishment can also pass through your heart and get pumped around your whole body through your bloodstream. So breathing in the nourishment to your heart and sending it out through the rest of your body, and allowing yourself to move and shift and change, especially noticing maybe your arms are coming a little bit more alive as you bring your attention to your heart. Your arms and your hands are the extension of your heart. Consciously noticing this giving and receiving from the earth into your heart, and that giving out to the rest of your body, and your to also mute you, Kathleen. There we go. And then giving out to others as well. So noticing we're breathing in from the earth up to the heart and out to the rest of our bodies, and then beyond our bodies through our hands and through the rest of our body as well, out to our connections with others, however you notice your connections right now. And I also invite you to breathe some of that nourishment from the earth up to your head as well, up to your glands in your head, your pituitary and pineal glands, these glands that help with intuition and insight and controlling all the other glands, these master glands, supporting our internal balance and activation and aliveness and connection with all of life. So see if you can breathe into them and then breathe out into your connection with all of life.
Niall, I'm in a meeting.
Okay, so from here, I invite you to stay internal, and we're going to honor the ancestors of the land where we are. And for me, where I am in Western Mass, these are the Pecumtuck, the Nipmuc, the Abenaki, and the Micmac, as well as other nations who are here and who have been here for so many centuries and millenniums. I honor your presence, I honor your culture, and I welcome you to be with us in this conversation and this practice of reconciliation. May your cultures flourish. May your communities flourish and thrive more and more. And I apologize as a representative of the settler peoples for the way in which you have been treated and your cultures have been desecrated. So, as we honor these ancestors of the land, I also invite you to honor your own ancestors from your own lineages, from your blood, from your bones, wherever they may be. May they be alive or in spirit with you. I invite you to honor them as they are with us tonight. And I also invite you to honor your guides, your teachers, your benefactors, your inspiration for being here, for doing the reconciliation and decolonization work that you are doing, and for your own awakening and flourishing in this lifetime and beyond. Okay. So I'm going to invite us then from here to actually go around and say our name and say our intention for being here. And and to keep it as simple, as short as possible, because we want to hear from Ike. So I'll go first, and I'm Hillary, and my intention is to be a vessel for reconciliation. So you can just come off of mute and introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Anne, and I am here for today. I'm going to be sitting with um, listening with the intention of um, getting more info about sustainability.
My name is Ike, and my intention is to. I was invited here to share my story of of my race and how I fit in and made my way on planet Earth. So that's my intention, to share that story.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jess. Hi, Hillary. It's finally good to be here.
Great to have
My
you.
intention is to be open and to receive wisdom and learnings on how to be a better ally.
Thanks, Jess. Mhm. See. Oh, we can't hear you, Dale, but I can see you want to be heard. Let's see. Maybe I'll unmute you. There you go.
Oh, hi, I'm Dale. My intention is to um, connect with a beautiful community and learn from Ike and learn more about sustainability and building community.
Great. Thanks for coming. Kathleen or Eileen. Oh, I'm gonna unmute you. Oh, there you
Oh, good. Hello. Hi. Thank you so much for being here. I'm here to learn more about myself, what I don't know, what I think I know, but I know from a very unique perspective. You know, just my own life. So I want to be an ally, and I want to know how to tread with more respect in my daily life. So that's why I'm here.
Thank you, Kathleen. Eileen, are you able to share with us? I think you're off of mute on my side. You can type in the chat if the audio isn't working. So we're not hearing you. Let's see. See if she types something. Okay, she'll reconnect soon, is what she wrote. Okay, well, we hope that you can join us again. And if you want to chat what your intention is when you come back on, that would be great. Okay, so thank you all for joining and bringing yourselves so present with us and bringing your intentions. And I'm really thrilled that Ike joined us tonight. A super late notice. I literally asked him yesterday. I was like, oh, I was going to ask you this.
Yeah.
And we've been spending quite a bit of time together. So, it was easy for me to kind of rally him to come join the conversation in a way. And it's actually been really wonderful to continue doing this work around reconciliation in a more intimate way, in intimate conversations, and to hear more about his story. So I even just want to be totally transparent. I wrote the description and wrote the bio, and he was cool with it. So I've been learning a lot about the many ways in which you've been creating in your life, your whole life, and how your entrepreneurial spirit has been transforming from kind of one initiative to the next and the next, and really allowing spirit to guide you in that process. And so just to say a little bit, and you're probably going to elaborate a lot more on this, but you grew up in Brooklyn as in Puerto Rican community. Is that true?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Puerto Rican and Black community. Yeah.
Okay. And you don't particularly look Puerto Rican, and that's because of your grandfather as well, and he was Spanish, and so you looked really different from the rest of your family. And also you were very motivated at a very young age partly because of your family and their circumstances, to be very entrepreneurial and to be a musician and a DJ, and then to start your own clothing shops at what, 21, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, 17 I started, and then by 21 I had a store, my first store
Okay,
in New
yeah.
York City. Yeah.
So yeah, you've been doing this a long time, and it's changed. Like, you've had, how many different shops have you had?
At one point I had 5 running at one time.
Wow,
Yeah.
a
So
lot.
it was like a mini chain operation,
Right.
and 14 employees and a lot, Yeah.
Wow, yeah, that is a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you went through a big awakening where you realized how much strain and drain all of this work and this kind of capitalist system and
Mm.
living in the city was putting on you, and you were inspired to become a captain and to follow that calling and to be in relationship with the elements in this way and with your spirituality in a deeper way, and then that leading you, and I want to hear more about this, because how astronomy and astrology came, and I've heard that piece, but I want you to get into that more,
Mhm.
and how that business kind of came out of your calling into relationship with spirit more fully,
Mhm.
which seems to have come out of being a captain in a big way as well,
Mhm.
and how you had to navigate so much and become very, very present.
Mhm.
um, yeah, and how you're now kind of bridging these worlds. You have a shop and you're a sidereal astrologist, and I invite you to talk more about what sidereal astrology is, as being aligned with the astronomy, with what's happening in the sky at any given time, and
Mhm.
how that helped you to make a shift in your life, towards what I'm calling a cosmic mindset. And that came to me as I was writing the description. And so, if that works for you, that's great. But how
Yeah.
do you think about it? And how is, your entrepreneurial endeavors, how they've been affected by your experience of race, and also how the sidereal astrology has, like I said, kind of expanded your perspective more and support
Mhm.
manifestation and supporting a more abundant life, and what is abundance to you. um,
Yeah.
yeah, so that's a lot of questions there.
Yeah. Yeah.
I invite you to take it any direction that you
All right.
from here.
So you wanna ask one question and maybe I'll roll out with it? Because I don't
Well,
know
here,
where to
I think
start.
Eileen also just jumped on, so if Eileen, you want to introduce yourself and say your intention, that'd be great.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So hi, I am here to explore. I am here to learn. I'm here to listen. And I'm here to stand for people who have less voice.
Thanks, Eileen. Sure. So let's see. Let's get started with kind of your earlier life and with how your experience of race growing up inspired you to be an entrepreneur at such a young age,
Mm.
and that beginning of your journey.
Okay. Yeah. So like we spoke before, I grew up in like we're from Puerto Rico, like Taino Indian Puerto Rican, like, and I'm the only one through the lineage of my mother and then linked to my grandfather that we look white and we have green eyes. But the rest of my family, they look like Indians from Puerto Rico, the Tainos, and which are what Puerto Ricans are. That's what we're not Spanish. That's not what we are. And we were told that we were the Tainos were extinct, and it's not true. But So it was interesting because my whole life has been, I'm too white to be Puerto Rican, and I'm too Puerto Rican to be white. So that's been the theme of my entire life. So here I am. I'm living, pretty much in low income. My father left early, so my mother, was in her 30s, raising three boys on welfare, and she was, heroin addict and an alcoholic, and totally just not present. And she passed on at the age of 37. So growing up in that environment was pretty much what we call the hood, the ghetto, the hood. And it wasn't like the fancy hood, where we get to blast rap music and then go and like eat a really good meal. It was like, there's no food in the fridge. There's no like whose house, whose family is present. Like as a kid at 6, 7 years old, you think whose family is together enough that you can hang out in their house around 5, 6 o'clock. So that way when dinner time comes, you get fed, like a puppy dog, like, because like in your house all you had was the welfare cheese and the white bread and sugar. So that was kind of how I grew up. And and so in that context I was always called the white boy. That's who I was. I was Ike the white boy. But I had older brothers who were Puerto Rican looking, and they knew those are my brothers, so I never had any problems in the neighborhood. So that's kind of what kept me kind of protected. And so yeah, so that's then I went to school, and there was really nothing there in school. There was nothing for the inner city kids in school. It was almost like they look like prisons. The schools in Brooklyn. I don't know if you've ever seen them, but they have um, gates on the windows. The playground is cement, and they let you out. I don't know, for a half hour for lunch, and the lunch is like prison food. It was like terrible food, but that was also a source of eating. And they also give you breakfast. So I would be one of the first people in school. Like I would show up there at 7:15 when you didn't really have to be there till 8:30 because you get free breakfast. So that was something else. So that's kind of how I grew up. And but the good part was that my grandmother was an indigenous Taino, and which meant that she cooked all the time. So no matter what, you she was a big pot of rice and beans starting at 11 o'clock in the afternoon, and then rice and beans, you have lunch, and then rice and beans for dinner, but she'll add chicken or steak or something, some type of meat. And but what that meant was that I had to take my bike across Prospect Park because she was in Burham Hill and I was in Flatbush. So that was like a war zone. So sometimes you would be like, I got to go to grandma's house to eat, but then it's like, but I can get jumped because I look white, and I'm going to go through Prospect Park. And now Prospect Park is very beautiful, just like Central Park. But Prospect Park, 9 times out of 10, you're going to get chased by a group of kids, either black or Puerto Rican, that don't know who you are because you left your turf, and now you're in their turf. So you got to kind of make it through. So that was kind of how I survived. Like that was just like a daily thing. So that was my upbringing, and and uh, and I would get fed. And my grandmother, was like, she looks like Indian woman, and she was great. She had the big boobs that were pillows that you lay down on after you eat, and it was nice. So, and it was like a typical Puerto Rican house that she had, where like the entire, 3 generations would fit in one household. So you'd have your grandfather, great grandmother, you have your uncle, your aunt, and you have a newly arrived baby sitting here from, my brother had a child at 14. His first child, he was 14. His girlfriend was 13. So they're like a new, so that's how it was. So you have like, don't have sex education, so you're having babies at a young age. So that's kind of what my grandmother's house was. But that was full of family life, and that was nice. So I had that to kind of like feed my soul a little bit. And then the good part, my father left, but he tried, once in a while when he would remember that he had kids, he would treat us good. He'd pick us up and take us to McDonald's and Nathan's hot dogs and Coney Island and all that stuff for the weekend, and then buy us clothes and the new sneakers and all these things. And then that would be like one weekend every few months, and that was like a highlight. So that's kind of what my relationship was there. It was like that. So, and sometimes he would arrive and pick you up, and you had holes in your shoes and your sneakers. And he would be like, "What is going on?" Well, I would say, "Last time you bought sneakers was like 6 months ago," So that's kind of how we grew up, like that. So that's where the inner city kids, where you get inner city kids, you grow up in an environment where they steal each other's sneakers. That was a big thing back in the day. And I don't know if that's even foreign to whoever's on this call now, but the biggest thing was to steal sneakers. Like if you get a pair of suede Pumas or shell top Adidas, you can get really beaten up for them. So now you have to be aware, like, okay, like, thanks for buying me sneakers, but I don't want the Adidas because I could get killed, so I'm just going to get the kangaroos. So, or the Pro-Keds, so that's kind of what you had. So as growing up, you have to navigate these type of problems that I don't think now, I don't even know if this is going on in the inner city, but I don't hear problems like this anymore with kids, which is a relief. But they really existed, So, and with like, even for your leather jackets, the big thing was 8-ball leather jackets. The big thing was to actually in the hood, was the big thing was to kill someone for the jacket. So that if you're wearing an 8-ball jacket, it meant that you either killed someone or you bought it. And then if you bought it, you had to stick up for yourself to keep it, because someone will try to kill you. So this is the reality of what I witnessed. And so that made me want to get out. So by age 13, the only way out was I tried a job. I had a job working stocking sodas in a deli in Park Slope, and I think I made $15 for the whole weekend, or was it $15 a day? I can't remember, but it was either that or all my drug dealer friends. So I was selling marijuana at 13, 14 years old, and then we got into stealing cars. So here I am, 13, 14 years old, and that's like the norm. All of our friends are stealing cars, selling drugs, and that's kind of like that's the reality. So, and that's kind of where we're at. But the good thing was my father had money, and I did get arrested a few times for stealing cars and writing graffiti. And he had a good year, and he sent me to military school for 1 year. I was 14 years old, and it's that kind of, I was, for the first time, I actually saw like normal white people living like a like a normal life, like I saw like houses with grass and stuff. So that was a wake up for me, and that helped me out a lot. That 1 year helped me out a lot. So, and then from there, I just like, I dropped out of school at 17 because it didn't make sense anymore to go to school. And I started a business because my father was a car salesman, and he was also an entrepreneur. So I would watch him. He inspired me. So that I saw that there's a possibility to hustle and make things work. So I used to like music, and I bought a bunch of mixtapes from DJs, and I would sell them in the flea markets. And the name of my flea market booth was called Ike's Boombastic Beats. So I used to sell these tapes for $10, and I used to buy them for $1. I used to buy the tape for $1 and then record blank tapes on and sell them for $10. And then from there, I created T-shirts, and from the T-shirts, by the time I was 21, I was offered to move into a store, and I had a store at 21, and then I just became like all about business, you know. And I kind of grew out of the ghetto. I just left that place, you know, and it was like escaping the ultimate death sentence. So I was able to do that. So yeah.
Mm. Wow, yeah. It's really powerful to hear more of the actual experience that you grew up with,
Mm.
and I didn't know about the military school that you went to, and it's really interesting to me to hear you say that you like this was this amazing opportunity, and that you saw like normal people with normal homes, you know. And from what I've been like studying and learning about racism, it's like, you know, you were conditioned to think that like this is what you want. You want to have a white lifestyle. You want to have like a normal home
Mm-hmm.
and live this like idealistic life, and that like the military was like showing that to you and like
Mm-hmm.
offering that to you, and gave you that opening. And I mean, that sounds like assimilation.
Yeah.
You know, it's a, I mean, I don't want to like liken it completely to these assimilation camps that indigenous people have been put in and these schools, but it's like a form of that in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, just when I heard you say that, it was like really struck me.
Yeah. Yeah. I forgot to mention too. That was the thing, was because you know, like that was one part, was like my father. You know, they came in the 50s, and there was a lot of racism. So we were pretty much called spics all the time, and he was too. And he forbid me to learn Spanish. He forbid my grandmother to speak Spanish with me. So I lost my native tongue, Spanish. You know,
Mm.
and he was it was like it was like I was the only white kid of the family, and I was like the only one that had hope because of just being white. So that was almost like, yeah, it was almost like an assimilation, you know, and that's how it is. It's like, and that's the thing all throughout life. And this is when we get into astrology, I'll point out where that exists in my chart. But all through life is like the military is developed for that alone. That's why a lot of inner city kids and low income in general, white and inner city, anything, they go to the military because it's a entry into normal existence. But the thing is that for me, the opportunity, I saw it, and then I got out. Like I got the taste, and I broadened my shoulders as a man, and then I left. Whereas most people that got indoctrinated there, they stayed in the military. Like actually my roommate in military school, you know, went to the Marines and became a Marines and did his whole time in the Marines. And you know, he came out and he suffered some stuff, and now he's this like some sort in some way sort of disabled now in some
Mm.
sense because of the military, because he went all the way, and most kids go all the way because that's all they know, because that's part of the assimilation program,
Mm.
you know. So yeah, so that's the point that you saw too. Yeah.
Mhm.
And it's in my chart. It's Saturn in the first house. You know, born into structure and born into slavery, the system, born into being limited, and that shows. And that's the work is always, you know, where's the lesson here? Because Saturn is also responsibility. So okay, how can I use this to be responsible but not be a slave to it? So this is my entire life.
Mm.
So
Wow.
mm,
Yeah, and the fact that you had your grandmother there sounds like she was like your salvation in
mm,
a way, and that without that, maybe you wouldn't have had this, I don't
mm,
know, you know, maybe
yeah,
have such a creative spirit and
Yeah, yeah.
believe in yourself and your own
Mhm.
knowing. It sounds like you always had that.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, she was like the ultimate, grandmother healer, So, yeah. So, yeah.
Wow.
Mhm.
Well, Anne, I'm wondering if you have a question that you want to ask Ike right now, if something's coming up for you.
I would like to know, from it seems as though that you had this experience where, which is most of us, but in your case specifically, you had to talk about navigating through, like, between being um, Aboriginal but not Aboriginal enough, and being white, and having to go through that.
Mhm.
What I would like to know from you is if you, or I don't know if you have, or planning to have kids, what kind of message you will pass on to them based on that experience that you
Mm.
went through, uh,
Yeah.
as far as finding their way to live, to be happy in life.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I do. I have a 16-year-old daughter.
Right.
And yeah, and the main thing is like I focus on truth of self, be who you really want to be,
Mhm.
and to be comfortable to talk to me about anything, and then to also share my story with her without shame.
Mhm.
um, you know um, and it's the same thing. I mean, she's 16 going on 17, and she's feeling the same way I felt about school. And most parents will be like, hey, you have to go and do this, and I'm just like, okay, so what's your plan if you want to drop out? you know right now I'm capable of like, I got your back, but you're not going to drop out and not to get a job at McDonald's. You can drop out and say, hey, I want to open up an art studio and paint. So
Mhm.
I'm here for that. So
Yeah.
that's what I did. And also, another thing that I forgot to mention is like, I had spurts with my father. Like he was always trying to be, up class. He was always trying to also, and he did a fair job with that. Um, but the thing was that sometimes I would go into where he lived, and he lived in upper class white areas. So now, being that was a Puerto Rican kid, I was accepted, but it was almost like I was entertainment now. So then I fell into being almost like an entertainment class clown type of person.
Mm.
Whereas like, yeah, I'm big and I'm bad. Check me out. Watch me do this bad thing. Watch me do this bad thing. Like watch me steal this car. And then it was entertainment now. I was like a clown. So now I'm facing this now with my child. Like, hey, you're not entertainment. You're not a child. Like, we live in a great area. We built ourselves up. And I've had a couple of falls in life, like where I've been completely flat broke because I take a risk on spirit, and sometimes spirit doesn't wear a clock. So you jump, and spirit is like, oh, I didn't realize that you're gonna hit the floor at this time. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm on the floor. So then spirit is like, all right, well, find your way back up. I'll be up here. So then, you don't realize that because people think that you jump into spirit and it's going to catch you. But part of the lesson is hitting the ground and picking up. So I've done that more than once. I mean, I'm completely broke, like completely like $2, $3 in my pocket without not knowing what to do. Not knowing how I'm going to make it. Not a situation where like, okay, I got $3 and I have a check that's going to hit my bank in 2 days. Like completely nothing. So, and my daughter witnessed that. So now I think was a lesson. Although for me, it was also for her, because now she knows that, yeah, we live in a privileged area now. We live in a upscale area in Saratoga Springs. You know, I own a clothing store on Broadway. One of the biggest stores on Broadway. So now if you look at us on the surface, you see, you know, a fairly young man that looks rich, and I you know, I do take care of myself, and I have all of my toys that connect me with elements, a sailboat, an RV, telescopes, things like that. So that's what it looks like. But I know the struggle, and my daughter knows the struggle. So now she is gonna, you know, she is now transmuted that energy. She won't be a clown. She'll be her true essence. And I think that is a great step ahead for her now. So, yeah.
That's beautiful. Because
Thanks.
I have 4 children. I have teenager. I have grandchildren,
Mm-hmm.
and I question a lot the schooling system. I mean, like I know we there's a need there's a there's a need for structure, and
Mm-hmm.
we have to have structure because this is not about eliminating structure. But I think structure to the point of eliminating creativity is really has done a lot of damage to kids in society,
Yeah.
because what it did, it took away the element of being your unique self, and it just forced everybody into, which might have been consciously or unconsciously put set into place to
Mm-hmm.
really have people behave a certain way. But um, from my perspective, is it caused a lot of, and I'm speaking from my own experience, not my kids' experience also. From my experience, if you didn't fit into that square box, then it made you feel, which was me, it made in myself, it felt like there was something wrong, like I wasn't measuring up.
Mm-hmm.
And so because of that, I see a lot of kids, they would rather become, as you say, the class clown, or they will drop out totally out of the schooling system. That's one aspect.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's another aspect where some of these kids have so much talent, some were able to find their part and do it and become very successful, whether it's in music or poetry or whatever the genre is. But the other thing is, business wise, a lot of them went on drugs and selling and doing all of that. That's a form of entrepreneurial spirit, but
Mm-hmm.
it's just doing the wrong thing.
Yeah,
um,
exactly.
so for me personally, I have struggled with um, bringing the creative spirit, um, and finding my own niche in society and being able to make a living from that, and doing it based on my own contentment, which a lot of people see. And a lot of people see it as weird, or I wouldn't say weird. It's just like not the traditional way of doing things, because I like to dabble a lot. I like to try new things and play around a lot, So that's not really acceptable in society unless you have money and you playing around. So for me, I struggled a lot, with that. And I have my son don't like school at all. He doesn't fit in. It's not that he's not intelligent. He's not that he's not, because he likes hockey. He knows what he likes. And when he goes into it, he's very focused. He's very organized. When he goes into school, he's the most disorganized person. He's not motivated. He doesn't
Uh,
want to be there. It's boring. And he looks literally depressed.
mm-hmm.
So I don't know if you have anything you could add to that for people who watching, or kids that teenagers or whatever they may be going through could hear it and feel supported and know that there's a way
Mm.
that could be successful.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. Yeah, I mean, because they hold on to these kids now in the school system. They really, and that's the thing is they think they're doing good. The people that are holding on think that they're doing good, but it's like, I mean, I mean, the only thing the advice I would give to kids is like, I mean, this is the advice I give to my daughter. If you're gonna show up, you can do it. Either do it or don't do it. But if you're not gonna do it, know what you're gonna do. That's the thing. Don't, because if you give up, one place that's pretty, sometimes I call it hell. You give one hell, there's another hell waiting for you to step
Absolutely.
into. So you leave school and now your days are free, and then all of a sudden you're going to run into people who also have free days, and then what are they doing? Probably nothing good. So if you know what you're doing, you're going to jump, and you're going to jump on your track. So that's what I would advise, is to find your track. That's what I'm telling my daughter. Find your track and jump on it while I'm here, while I got your back. And that's the thing. Most people would then think, oh, I can be a bartender, or I can do waitressing. But then the stress of that makes you do drugs, and that's another trap. So you got to identify, to be honest, like you got to identify what's a trap. And it's usually the easy route is usually a trap, for the fresh mind coming in.
Right.
So I would just say, know what you want now. Like know what you want, and really just state what you want. I mean, if you want to go around and paint manholes and say "yo" on them and make that art, then go paint it. You might not become successful, but you know what? You might meet someone while you're painting it, right? That says, "What made you do that?" And the kid would be like, "Because I wanted to." And that will be like an amazing meeting. You don't know, but do what you want and vibrate in your truth, and then you would only attract truth, and you would only attract people who want to be with truth. But if you vibrate loss and confusion, then you would vibrate people who will feed off of loss and confusion, and that's the issue.
I totally so agree with you on that point.
Yeah.
I think that's the ultimate thing, because I stand up sometimes in the metros and I look at people 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock in the morning hustling, going down like little ants in the metro, looking to go to work, to a 9 to 5 job, and some of them, that you look at their faces and they look like dead people walking. I when I look at that, I said to myself, I don't want to be a part of that. So that's my decision. I don't want to be a part of that. And because I see people working 3 jobs and they just making it, barely making it. So if somebody have to work three jobs to just pay their bills, they have no energy for nothing else, no family, no nothing. So for me, that does not make sense. That's why I brought up this point about sustainability, how we look at sustainability and work, and how we could create a change in perspective as to how we want to live and how we want to earn that livelihood. And I can't wait to hear what other people have to say, or their questions, to see what comes up for other people. But I think for myself that, sustainability is a big issue. And we know the whole colonization thing has played a big role into that, because we see a big disparity between the white perspective and the Black perspective, or the indigenous people, people who are marginalized. how the way they live compared to the upper class or the smaller group who is upper class rich people, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so does that bring happiness, or what American success, I mean, the American dream success is that the kind of life we want to aim at, or is there something different that we are aiming at, you know?
Mm.
Because as you say, when you went into the military, you saw a normal white perspective of how life could be,
Mm-hmm.
and that kind of changed your perspective. But is that the ideal that we aiming at as the American dream, or is there something that's missing from that that we need to look at in order to be contented and happy? And do we need that, the ideal, you know, like 5 TV and 10 bed, like 10 washrooms, and you know
Yeah.
those, and kids having, you know, I see these shows where kids having big birthday bash where they breaking champagne bottles, and then, you know, you look at the other poor countries and people are looking for like bones and they're going through garbage for, is that the kind of, well, I don't know, I'm questioning, so I'm asking, you know, looking for responses also, as
Mm-hmm.
far as what is there a balance that we need to come to find that contentment and joy and openness to a
Mm.
more balanced way of seeing success and sustainability.
Yeah, and I would invite you to consider that in sharing about like the second half of your life and the choices that you've made, and share a little bit more with us about that and how you've simplified your life and went on this journey back to Puerto Rico, and
Mm.
and
Right.
how that led you into being like a spiritual leader in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. That the part of fitting in is big, and if, like what you're saying, like, you know, the bigger and the better, and then proving yourself through having 5 TVs and things like that. And yeah, you know, I never really fell to that, but I've observed it, and I was always able to be around it, but I never really fell into it. But there were parts of me that did, and knew that I was fully conscious of it.
Mhm.
And I think, to be honest, you know, I think like losing a mother at a young age, I always felt guided. I always felt like there was a spirit guide that was keeping me from going too far in,
Mhm.
because, you know, I was like, I mean, I was 26, and I was juggling, you know, multi-million-dollar business, self-made, total self-made, no bank financing, no, you know, no family loans. This was from starting from the flea market and hustling my butt. And I guess I can explain a story, like, you know, because then I started getting into, you know, because my business was the fashion business. I was,
Right.
you know, buying and selling designer clothing.
Mhm.
And then since I was making a lot of money, I was attracting all of the other people that wanted to also make money. That's how it works. So,
Mhm.
and then I remember I linked up with another entrepreneur who was also as young as me, but he had he had parents that helped him. So he understood who I was, and he later sold this company to the Gap for some big number, like $20 million or something like that. But I remember you know, we were in the Hamptons because we were sailing boats together, and we'll go over the boat thing later. But he we went to the party, and there was like this like fancy, you know, upscale thing, and everybody was they were young and rich, mainly through parents, you know, and they all owned their own businesses, but it was all through, you know, taking over their parents or parents' finances. And he held me, and he was like, no matter how much these people are going to try to break you down, and he was saying because I was Puerto Rican, He was saying, no matter how much they try to break you down, he says, know that I know how you made yourself, that you're a self-made man, and you did it on your own, and I know that you did it on your own. So whenever you're feeling, insecure, know that I know who you are, and then that will make sure you know who you are around these people. And that was something that was really strong, and it still sticks with me. So that's how I was able to not let any of these things stick, because it will be very easy to let those things stick to you and then to prove yourself and get stuck in that trap. So things like that would show up to me, and they would ring my head so hard that I couldn't get it out of my head. And that's how I navigated life like that, But part of my life, the whole thing, like at a young age, so like 26, I was realizing I was, and I was with a partner, and we later got married, and we had a child together, and she was helping me in my business, so we were almost like business partners. But it was, there was a lot of work, but I had a vision to make the business work for me, for us, so that I don't have to work hard anymore. So it was like put a couple of hard years in, and then take care of life. And what that looked like was, at a certain age, I wanted to just live on a sailboat and let the business run remotely on autopilot while we live life, because I just wanted to sail around and explore and have things work that way, instead of slaving to the business. Now the business got to a point. And right when we got to that point, my wife at the time got scared. Because that world is very enticing, the business world, being the leader in the fashion. I was the leader in my part of the industry, in the sample sales and overstock industry, where everything was discounted designers. I was the main runner up, and that was very attractive, and I felt like she got lost there, and I was still wanted to be on track. So that brought us into a place of getting divorced. And then I bought a sailboat, and I lived, I just was just like, this was my Saturn return, and Saturn return will take anything away from you that's not working. And pretty much all of that world just completely it just left. So I bought a sailboat, and I became a captain, and I was deeply connected with the water and the spiritual messages that come from the water, and all those things that we all dream about, that whole joke. I don't know if you heard that joke where there's a rich man that goes to Mexico, and he sees a fisherman catching fish, and he says, "Oh, you're good at that." And the fisherman's like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Wow, you should, start a company selling fish, and open up a warehouse, and then sell to all these stores." And the fisherman is saying, "And then what?" And he goes, "And then you can have a lot of stores, and then you can have a happy house and have a big family." And the fisherman is like, "I have a nice house." And the guy's like, "No, it's a shack." He's like, "But I like it. It's on the water. And I have a nice family. I have children and a wife." So the guy's like, "No, but you can have like all these things." And then, so the story keeps going on, but then, you can sell it and make millions. And the guy goes, "And then what?" "And then you can retire on an island and fish all day." And the guy is like, "But I'm doing that right now. So why do I have to do all that stuff?" So this was kind of like where I was exploring that life, and it was great because it was rooted in spirit and just existing. And it was like a floating wellness center. We would do sunset sails, meditation, beach yoga, and I would go around and take people out sailing and having this experience. I was sharing that with people, So I was on my spiritual path at that point, because the whole time I was in business, my spiritual path, which I knew I had, was kind of being stifled, and I kept making an excuse. I'm gonna get to it. I'm gonna get to it. I'm gonna get to it. And then when Saturn return came, there's no more excuse. It was like, okay, there's no getting to it. You are gonna be it. And I'm blessed that I was it, because some people bypass that, and then they become addicted to whatever type of drugs that help them with depression. And thank God I didn't go down that route, because I would have been a super, millionaire at 31, 32, and addicted to drugs, and being in a marriage that was not correct, and who knows what else would have happened. So that's where I got into that path. So is that what you wanted to touch on, Hillary, or?
Yeah, well, and then how did astronomy and astrology come to you, and how have you been called into that?
Okay, yeah, it's a good point. So a lot of times, the spiritual path that we all talk about, where letting everything go, and that sounds good, but there was a lot of hard realities there. This was like, it was almost like the rawness came up, and the comfort left, and it almost felt like, I got banished from this place of safety, because the whole time when I was an entrepreneur and self-made, I built myself up where, you know, made money, and I didn't have the worries of money that I've then developed on my spiritual path. So you have to battle that now. Like, I didn't really have to worry about, oh man, I can't fill up my gas tank, let me just put $20 in. That wasn't even a reality. So I built myself to that point. So I was almost not affected by those type of things. And now on your spiritual path, you're affected by all of these things. And it was like very uncomfortable. And but that was like the path. So that being said, it was a hard, like, there was parts of it that when you really, especially when you're alone on a sailboat, there'd be times where I'm just completely alone, and for a long time. So you go to your mind and you think of what you left and what you lost and all these things, because everything was gone at this point. I had 5 stores, now I have 0. And now I make my money by taking people sailing. And you know what? If it happens to rain on the day you thought you were going to make money, then you don't make any money. And then what? So you have these types of realities now that are hitting you. And these were hard realities now. And by this time, I'm in my late 30s, and I'm living, this like hard reality, but I'm staying true to spirit. So then I explored, plant medicine, ayahuasca. So I did that plant medicine journey because I knew, part of me felt like, I would always make this analogy, was because living on a sailboat was the ultimate teacher for me. That was the ultimate life lesson that I could ever ask for. And then one of the lessons there was, when you're sailing on a boat and you're making a crossing is what it's called, from one land to another, you only heard of this land that you're going to, but you're leaving the land that you lived on. But there's a point in the journey where you cannot see the land that you're going to, and you cannot even see the land that you left. But then you're wondering, what am I doing? Why did I just leave? I don't even see this place. What if this place is not what it is? And all these things. So that's where I was on my spiritual journey too. That was where I was like, I'm so far removed from this like world of a muggle, business and money and driving into the city every day to work and all this stuff. I'm so far away from that. But then I'm heading towards this place, and I'm just like, I'm not even there yet. Now, what happens when I get there and it looks just the same as what I am right now, which is like completely, broke, wondering, hustling for money now, and, all these things. And then, so your mind goes like a little crazy, and then you do go a little crazy. You just literally go crazy living on a boat. Like, you go crazy, but that's where you break. So then I turned to the ayahuasca, the plant medicine, because my life also during this spiritual path, you're repeating patterns that aren't good, and a lot of times they show up in relationships, and then you repeat and they're not good, and then you finally take the plunge and you go into this journey with the medicine. And it was a 4-year journey that I went on with this plant medicine, not like going away for 4 years and disappearing. Just every 3 months you go in and you sit and you do this journey for a weekend, and you have like these long sessions. And then that happened for 4 years. And it was a complete breakdown of old patterns, everything. Like you're just being completely broken down. And it really sucked. It wasn't pleasant. There were points that were pleasant towards the end. But one of the things that came up for me during all these journeys, when, you know, you go through, you know, your death, they call it the shaman's death, and you just like complete, like torn apart, and you feel like you're in hell, and you're meeting bad spirits and everything. But all that stuff is in you. So you're kind of dealing with that. But a lot of times when you have these breakthroughs, you know, a lot of times I would break through and I'd find myself in the stars. And sometimes the ceiling of the ceremony place the ceiling would disappear, and I'd be in the stars already, like I just lifted up and I was in the stars. And that felt like a home. That felt like, oh wow, what is this place? This is home. This is familiar. And then I found myself navigating in this realm and knowing where I was. And so then I became connected to the stars, which I didn't even know about. I didn't know anything about the stars or I knew astrology and I kind of knew about it, but nothing like truly connecting to like the stars, like eating, you know, feeding on the stars is where I was always ending up. And then one day on the ayahuasca journey, it was the 4th year, the medicine speaks to you and it said, your journey is done. You've reached your point that you've intended to in your lifetime. And I was like, well, what point is that? You know, because I thought I was still, but it was funny because when you're in these ayahuasca journeys, you're like in this other realm, and it's complete, sometimes like a washing machine, and you're getting tossed around and spirits are eating you. I mean, it's just really can be really terrible, and you're purging out bad spirit energy and all this stuff. And then all of a sudden, you know, I was in this cosmic egg. I was flying in a cosmic egg, and then the egg broke open, and it said, "You've arrived, and this is your intended purpose." And it was, what was crazy was I was in the effect of the medicine that was just like you can't even see in front of you. And then as soon as the egg broke, I just stood up like normal, like I wasn't in any, had no effect on me. And I and it said, "That's it. Your journey is up. You've reached your point." And I said, "Well, what point is that?" And the medicine said, "Put your jacket on and go outside." And it was November. So I left the ceremony room like normal. I walked like my jacket. I walked out like normal, where like normally I would have just fell over the place and you know, everything would have been terrible. I walked out like normal, and then I'm sitting outside and I'm like, "Hello," you know, and then I glance up at the stars, and every time I glance up at the stars, there was voices that were there, and that's what was catching my attention. And then I would look again, and then I would spend more time. And as I spent more time, it was like a fine-tuned radio station. The voices would get clearer and clearer and clearer, and then I was actually moving into the space of the messages, and I was having full-on conversation with and it was happened to be the Orion's belt, which later on, as I did all my research as an astronomer astrologer, there's a lot of connections through all of mythology, mainly ancient Egyptian, you know, cosmology is all rooted with Orion, the Orion's belt, which is where the pyramids match the layout of the belt. So all of these things, and this stuff was kind of coming to me, and I didn't understand what was happening. But then when I researched later, what I remembered, it was all true. So from that point, I bought a telescope, and I said, I want to know what all this is about, because these voices were way too strong. This wasn't anything that I've ever heard before. And then I got into the stars, and then I just got a telescope, and I was just like, you know, stargazing on my rooftop in New York City, because I had an apartment in New York, and I was able to look at the planets. And then I just became purely motivated, pretty much like an addiction with the stars, like crazy. And then I became I started taking photographs of the nebulas and galaxies, just spending time with the stars, and communing with them, just like that was my second home. And it was real. And then I got into all the mythology, and I got into all these things. But then when I started to notice, again, I was going through another crash in life, because I tried to build business up again and then it failed again and all these things happened, that I was actually looking at astrology websites, and then I was looking at my telescope, and then what was going on in the astrology websites, what they were saying wasn't what I was looking at in a telescope. So then I realized there's something wrong here. What's happening? And then when I started asking my astrologer friends if they have telescopes, or did they ever look through their telescopes to see why the charts are not matching the sky, none of them had telescopes, and none of them looked through telescopes. So then I got really confused and also a little angry, because I'm like, because I thought, like most people think, when you hear astrology, you think, oh yeah, that's where they say your sun sign is Aquarius, and you go, oh yeah, that's where my sun was when I was born. It was in the constellation of Aquarius. But the truth is that it wasn't in the constellation of Aquarius, so it was in the constellation of Pisces. So that's kind of like what's happened. Well, it was constellation of Capricorn. You go one back. So then you realize these things, and then I was like, okay, so there's a big deception going on here. Now, what is this about? Because I'm hearing the messages of the stars, and they're moving me as total truth. And researching the truth, and the truth is there. Now, when I turn to astrology, which is supposed to be a map of the truth that is on a piece of paper that connects you to a truth that I know is true, that paper is not true. So why are we now what is going on here that we are, reading these false papers, believing that they're true? So here's another deception, and it's a big deception, because as I started researching, mythology points you to looking at the stars to find your way home, to find your way to true spirit, is you have to read the stars, because the stars are energy. And there's a quote that I found from the Hermetica, which is the Hermetic text. And there's a conversation between Atum, which Atum is the great creator, and Atum relates to Atom, which is the atom, that the molecule, which is what we're all made of, atoms. So this is where things line up now, where you have to pay attention. So Atum, Atom, and then Adam, the man Adam. So all these are one word, right? So, and it says Atum, the gods, which are the planets, are having a conversation with Atum, and it says these humans on this planet are, if they realize their true power, we're not going to be able to manage them. They're too powerful for us to manage. So what are we going to do about this? Because they're powerful. And Atum says, I will build a zodiac in the sky. I will build a zodiac, and the zodiac will be a mechanism to control the mankind's fate from birth to death. They will be controlled by this mechanism, which is the zodiac. So right there, I was like, okay, a creation story that says the zodiac controls man from man's fate. So that's where I started to pay attention and discovered astrology, which is called sidereal. Sidereal means star time. So it's astrology that's connected with star time, because the stars, and this is going to be a lifelong research. I'm never going to have the full answer, but the stars and the constellations and the zodiac, that's a language that was left to us to read. And in reading that language, understanding that language, and resonating with that language is liberation from this structured place that we live on Earth. Because Earth is we're in a prison. And that's another thing that's in the Hermetica too, that says that, the spirit, we are dead. We are dead right now. This is what's called the Amenta. Earth is where spirits have to die and get shoved into a body to experience, because they want to experience separation so they can bring those lessons back to the soul collective. But you have three forms of death. The spirit dies and goes into a body. And the second death is when the spirit in your body loses connection to the great spirit above, the reason why it came. So that's a death. And then the third death is actually liberation, when the spirit leaves the body and goes back into the oneness. So these are the three deaths. So it talks like you're here, this is like a death. This is a prison for the soul, but you're here to learn in this prison. But we're born here with amnesia and we don't know this. But if you resonate with the stars and the lessons that the stars have for us, and what is the zodiac, and what is the language that is left to us, then in this lifetime you will remember, and you will come out of your amnesia, and you will know your purpose, and hopefully you can get back to your star being way. So this is the astrology that I discovered, and this is now the path that I'm on. And now this makes everything in life for me, easier to understand. When things get a little weird or tough, I can see where it is in the stars, and then I can see where people, if they read the wrong astrology, where they can go off. They can, because they associate with the wrong zodiac sign, and then that's also a form of of illusion, being slightly off connection, but it's a small disconnection, but it's off, and then they live a life of amnesia. So now that's my path, is to make these connections, bring, that's the quote on my website, bringing my people to the stars and the stars to my people. So that's kind of where I'm at right now with my path. And so now like I'm really proud. I don't know if I'll ever have a lot of money or not, but on my tombstone is going to say the astrologer. It's not going to say the blouse slinger at discount prices. So that right there, I'm already good. I'm happy. So that's where I'm at right now. So,
Wow.
yeah. So
Mm.
that's the path. So yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you,
Very
Ike, for
beautiful.
sharing all of that wisdom with us, and
Yeah.
yeah, the richness of your story. And I'm wondering if others have questions that they want to ask you about your journey and any of the topics that you brought up. So
Okay. Yeah.
you can come off of mute if you would like to ask a question, or you can type it in the chat as well.
Okay, I think I have one.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yeah. I can hear you. Yeah.
Hey, Ike.
Yeah.
This is profoundly inspiring, and I've been aware more and more of the ascension process going on, and I see what a beautiful role you have in this. And my question is about people. A lot of healers I know who are single parents and struggle with, and they're great teachers and leaders, and they struggle with manifesting abundance and finding these changing times really hard, and especially with kids, And I guess my question is, what guidance would you have for helping others to find their power, especially kids and single moms in these confusing times?
Yeah.
And single dads.
Yeah. 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 It is tough, because I mean, it's a lot. I'm doing it with my daughter. I'm a single dad. Her mom is around, but for the last 4 years, it's been me holding it down, and I'm open to her mom showing up whenever she can, and whatever. But I mean, the thing, it's like, wow, like, it's a good question, because I mean, single moms like do struggle a lot, because they can't even go to work, and leave the children, and
Right.
and the thing is with my daughter, she's a latchkey kid, so she's was able to like let come in home, but there is some suffering there, I mean, there is some suffering, I think, like, because I wasn't home for a while, because I still have that other business that it's actually, I still keep that running, and I show up there a few days a week.
Yeah.
But I think it's like, to be honest, like for me, for what I did with my daughter, it was just like not to put pressure, but it's like, we're in this together, and that's the thing. She saw my journey, like the one part of my story that I forgot to mention was that I got to a point where I was following my dreams so hard that I was able, not paying much attention, that I was able to get my sailboat. I had a big 39-foot sailboat I lived on for 11 years. I was able to get it to Puerto Rico, to my homeland, because I wanted to route. I thought for me was to route into the stars and route into my homeland. But what happened was when I realized, oh wow, I'm in my homeland, and then I was like, things just didn't look how I thought they were, because I had a daughter who needed me.
Yeah.
So to be honest, I left the boat there. I left the big. I paid a lot of money for it, and I left it there, and it's sitting there because she needed me. So she knows the journey that I took, and the sacrifices to make this work. So I include her in this. I include her in like, hey, like we're really in this together. Like, and it's not to say I don't deal with teenage stuff. Like I come home to dishes to the ceiling all the time. Sometimes I wonder, how do we accumulate so many dishes? So it's not like I don't deal with that stuff, and I deal with it, but it exists. But the thing is, like the root is, we're in this together, and you're not privileged, but I prove to you that I will do whatever I got to do to make this work, and that's what I know, because I did it. I know, so I don't have a doubt in me as a parent that I show up and I can be present. So I think, I mean, for single parents, I think that's the main thing, is to just like, really, look at their children as we're in this together. I'm showing up as much as I can. I know I can be short in some areas, and as a child, hopefully you learn and you don't show up short in the same areas for your children, and then you will have transmuted the family lineage by transmuting my shortcomings, because I know for sure that I've transmuted my father's shortcomings. So I mean, that's the only advice that I can give, because I'm in it too, and I see it's hard. It's so like hard, and especially if the kids are young too, like like we have, it's and we live in a world, unfortunately, where it's like it's dog world. Even if we want to help, it's conditional help too, and sometimes we can't help because we're also on our path, and when you help, you can enable. So you have situations like that go on too, that you have to monitor, and and know that the single parent has a lesson to learn too by being a single parent. And what's that lesson?
Yeah.
So,
and
yeah,
a lot of times the feeling of lack consciousness and not having enough. And do you have any guidance on abundance, manifesting?
Yeah. Yeah, lack consciousness is the main consciousness running on this planet right now.
Yeah.
That's why everybody rushes to work, like you notice, like they rush to work and they'll kill themselves to make money. They'll kill their souls. And I saw myself doing that, and I pulled out.
Yeah.
But you live in a world. We live in a world, and that's, I mean, for me, that's the identity that I identify with every day. You live in a world that if you don't show up to a certain situation, mainly a job or a business, that it will get taken away. Like someone is, and most likely will, attempt to take it away. And I deal with that all the time. And even in my current business that I'm keeping together, which hopefully will sell by the end of the year, but there's always someone there that will, and that's the reality. And that creates the lack mentality. But my stability lies in I've built myself up from nothing. I fell to the rock bottom, to homelessness. I mean, I don't know, like, thank God I have a motorhome, but I lived in the motorhome, and I was charging people $5 to look through my telescope on the streets to make money. And this wasn't so long ago. This was like 5 years ago, you know?
Wow.
Yeah. And so so nothing scares me on that level. So if someone wants to try to take something, you know, I mean, you know, good luck. And you know, I'm smart enough to not bite the hooks, because there's trickery everywhere, and you have to know that. And I know that sounds like negative talk. There's tricks, there's traps, there's things, but if you know the way society, mainly educated society, has been structured, it's been structured in one-upmanship. It's been structured that, how can I take advantage of this situation? How can I take advantage of this situation? So when you're out there and you're open, there's also a capacity to be taken advantage of.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been taken advantage of many, 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 many times, over and over. And sometimes it still happens. And a lot of times the point where I'm at now is, if I feel the energy and I can see the optimism, I can see the higher good in a person, you know, you put out a cookie and you see what happens. And if they take the cookie in a way that's not reciprocal, then, okay, you learn the lesson by the loss of a cookie. And that which is why, and you know, we're part of the same community. If you notice, like, I'm very open, I'm very friendly, but you notice I'm very private too. I have a privacy about me. And that privacy is my protection for myself. I carry with myself a lot of discernment. And some people can say it's judgment, but for me, it's discernment, right? Because that's just, for me, that's what I wrote, because I carry a lot of responsibility, you know, for my child, like single parent, carry a lot of responsibility. Now that she's living with me, I can't afford to have a crash again. You know, before, living on a sailboat, being a vagabond, it was kind of easy to crash. Now you can't afford it. So now I have more responsibility, but I am also rooted in my spiritual path. So that's even more responsibility, because now people rely on me to be in tune with my spiritual path. So this is like where all the work starts to happen now as a single parent, because now you're showing your child, how do you live in your path and still be responsible? Because sometimes the path is not always abundant. You know what I mean? Like our path that we are all on, there's not abundant. It's not like we walk into a room and we say, hey, we have some answers to higher spirit, and then a bucket of money gets tossed on us. You know what I'm saying? That doesn't work. And it's hard. It's really, really hard. But for me, you know, thank God that for me, I had the awakening with the plant medicine that rooted me into my higher path, which was astrology. So now I feel totally rooted in total. My loss of amnesia on earth is gone. I have no more amnesia, you know, so that allows me to show up real for my child and everything, you know. So I guess that's the advice to single parents, is show up to your truth, like work on losing your amnesia, show up to your truth and share that path with your child. Share your waking up with your child, so your child can look at you and be like, holy shit, I remember when, you know, we were completely broken, you couldn't even buy dinner, and now we have dinner. So now it's like a miracle, you know. And that is what I share with my child. And maybe that's the advice I would give, is to share that, you know, and not be afraid. That's another thing. We're always afraid to let our children see us struggle, or, you know, like we don't want to see. But if your struggle is real, then let it be seen by your child, you know?
Yeah. Can I ask one more question?
Yeah, man.
Yeah. I find building spiritual community, or being part of spiritual community, is very helpful in parenting. And are you involved in or are creating a community or in your area? Because I'm actually interested in this area lately,
Yeah.
more and more. Mm.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a lot of spiritual communities like starting up, kind
Yeah,
of,
they are.
and I'm just present in all of them,
Yeah,
and
I see.
but
Good.
I still hold a position that I just like, I'm there, but I'm not there, kind of like I'm there
Gotcha.
and I'm not there. You know what I
I
mean?
see.
Yeah,
Yes, but now I get it.
yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you.
yeah,
Eager to learn more, and thanks for
yeah, yeah,
everything. Mm,
yeah. Thanks, man. Yeah, thanks for the questions.
mm.
It's good. Yeah, 'cause I know you're gonna be close to your daughter now, so you're gonna
Yeah,
be experiencing this stuff.
yeah,
Yeah,
and there's a community forming around here, and I'm
yeah,
actually around Murrow State Park right now. A
yeah.
little
Nice. Yeah,
vision quest.
yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, so lots of other kids that will be involved too.
Oh, cool.
Um, some of them have single moms that want to be involved. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, the thing that I've experienced with the multiple communities that I've been witnessing in the areas is there there is there is like a codependency, entering in the community through lack, being like,
yeah,
okay, if I have community, then I have more people that can help me. And I heard the word unity through community a lot, but really it's been like chaos in community because everyone is operating in lack and they expect everyone else to provide. And my advice, which is why I'm here and I'm not here, because I show up when I can be full enough to hold my container, because a lot of times I'm holding other containers and stuff.
yeah,
So my advice in the community is to show up whole and know who you are, and not rely on others to fill the holes that are missing in the community. You know. So
beautiful.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
well said.
Yeah.
Thank you.
yeah. Thanks.
Yeah,
Hmm.
thank you. I can relate to that myself
Yeah,
in many ways.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm wondering if there's a woman who has a question. I know we have 3 other women on the call who have been. Oh, Jess sent a question. Um, what's a practical way we can heal suffering and hurts between races? Okay, she's got 3 questions. Okay, we'll see how far we can get into this. What's a practical way we can heal suffering and hurts between races? How can we be better allies and humans? And what isn't helping that we think does help? So that's a lot of angles there, and I'm curious what your thoughts are, Ike, about any of those in the next.
Read them off again. Hold on.
Yeah.
Oh wait, I think I can see it. Let me see.
You could find it in the chat, but
Oh yeah. What's a
Yeah.
practical difference between races? Okay, about allies and humans.
so this is like the big questions we're asking doing Grace
Yeah.
is, and it's kind of the overarching meta questions.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so if you have any insights, it'd be great to hear.
Yeah. Wow. What's a practical? Well. Wow. It's a big question.
Yeah.
the the thing that I've dealt with a lot. It just came up the other day because one of my businesses before, when I was reinventing myself, was I would do because the fashion business is a really good business, and that's the reason why I'm holding on to one store now, is because there's a sense of security that I have with the clothing business that I know very well, but I don't believe in it, because I remember we had that conversation with that guy at the other store, and we were
Yeah.
like, he almost tried to break me down, and I'm like, I don't believe in it. I mean, I know it's kind of hogwash, but it's what the world is involved in and whatever. So that's a long story. But one of the things that I try to do is I try to give a percentage of my sales to charity.
Mm.
And I've given a lot to charity. I planted
Mm.
19,000 trees in one weekend. I can't remember how much clean water through charity water, but we must have given water to, I think, 1,000 people for a lifetime. And then Sloan Kettering Cancer Hospital, I gave it was $9,000. It was because we did a huge sale for a big fashion designer, and we did over like $100,000 in the one weekend with the sale. So I gave over 9,000. Oh, it was like $10,000 to the charity of their choice. So I did all that, and now, so you think that you're helping that way, and it's good. It makes you feel good, but there's another background to it, and I've seen this, and I don't really know what it is, and maybe other people can maybe might have more, but I saw a flyer the other day of a clothing company, and it was a company created by young kids, and they're white, and I think they have money because I think their parents finance them, but they're in Africa holding up a child, saying a percentage of your money is going to go towards this child. And my immediate thought was, did you really live where this child lives? Did you experience how this child lived? Or did you fly in on a prearranged trip with the organization that walked you through the village for half a day, and then you retreated into your air-conditioned hotel, and then figured out you got some good shots, you got good photos, and now you can use those photos, and don't get me wrong, the intention is good, because that's good, but how deep did you go in with these children? How deep are you dirty with the children? Are you drinking the horrible water these children are drinking? And the answer from the photo that I saw was no, because the person had clean fingernails. And if you're living in Africa the way these children are living, no matter what you do, even if you wash yourself, you're not going to have clean fingernails. Because I lived that way on beaches and on boats with no water. You can try to wash, you don't wash. And so I saw that, and the thing was are you really healing them? Are you really doing the work to heal them? Are you understanding them? So this is the ally thing. Are you really an ally, or is this an opportunity for you to draw a compassion card for your business, but you're also doing good, but how good? So this is the thing. But then this turned into something that I've experienced, and I've experienced this mainly with family and close friends, because I was able to support family and friends at times of hardship. So this is the part where I'm wondering if this all connects, is the healing and the suffering. You go and you help some tribe or wherever in Africa, and you step in and you help them monetarily, and then you leave. And then are they going to transmute that healing, or are they just going to buy one or two things and maybe a nice roof for their home, and then that's it? Did you work with them to transmute and come out of this, with this place of lack where they're in? And I doubt it. But the point I'm trying to make is, I remember helping family and friends, and with no problem, So if a family of a friend needed a few $1,000s, and they were struggling to the point of poverty, total no food, here I am, the young brother or the young, cousin, with a wad of cash. What do you need? No problem. Here, throw it on the table. And here is this person struggled for an entire week, and afraid to lose integrity by asking. And then I stroll in with the breeze and just throw down a few $1,000 and be like, buy whatever you need, take care of yourself, thinking that I was doing good, which I thought I was doing good. But what that created was resentment, and I didn't realize that. And I wonder if this is part of that healing that needs to happen, right? Because now, under their breath, they take the money and they're like, look at this, little punk. He's my little brother, my little cousin, and he can come in here with no problem. And I was suffering, thinking I'm going to die or I'm not going to wake up. And he comes in, fresh and sharp with his nice car and everything, and drops a couple $1,000, and he gives me a hug, kisses me, tells me he loves me, and he walks away because he's too busy to hang out with me, because I'm poor and I'm broke. And, so all these stories go on. So then it creates resentment. So then when I fell, instead of being helped, I was kicked. And then an elder came to me and told me, no good deed goes unpunished. So don't enable people. So if you're going to help them, really help them. Don't throw down a patch. And that was a huge lesson. And I don't think I know I don't think I know the full answer yet. I think I'm still living it. But that reminds me of this question, like how can we help heal the suffering between the races? Well, get into the race. Get into what that other race is, and live with them. Live by them. Just don't say, "Hey, we're here to help," and all these things, and then, "Okay, time is up. I gotta go. See you later. I hope this helped you." Like, live with them, understand them. Don't you know uh, treat them as like something that you're fixing, because nobody really wants to be fixed. They want to be helped. So I think that's the I feel like a deeper healing could happen if that's taken into account, and that will also automatically become better allies. And so I don't know what that looks like though. That's the thing. Do, so this is where I don't know, but I know that that element needs to be there, or else we're just doing ourselves an egoic service, saying, "Look at us, we're helping people who are not as privileged as we are, and we gave them clothes and a meal." So that's, I think, the deeper work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. And that's an ongoing question we'll probably always be asking, and maybe finding some glimmers of insights in our own experience, hopefully, in this process that we're all in together here. Thank you, Wes, for the questions. And we're a little over 8, and so I'm gonna kind of wrap up our sharing with Ike, and thank you so much for all that you offered us tonight, and really just showing up and sharing so
Yeah.
deeply and vastly from your life and your heart, and it's just really
Yeah.
moving. And thank you, Dale, for your questions, and everyone for your presence.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anne, as always, for holding it down and for inspiring these ongoing conversations. And Anne has a little bit to share with us tonight, of her a project that she's working on, and that I'm supporting her so that she can be doing this more and more fully, and can step into greater leadership. And so that's part of why we asked you to come, Ike, and talk about your life and your journey. So I'm going to pass it on to Anne.
So thank you, Ike, for that marvelous history and all
Thank you.
the supportive answers that you delivered there. That was profound for me. We still have a lot of questions, and I think there's a lot of room to expand on this topic. And but maybe another time you could come again, and and we could carry it a little bit further. Okay, so thank you. What it is I wanted to bring up is the fact that, I mean, I see the relevancy of this conversation going forward, and I'm hoping that people would give feedback about how they feel about this gathering, and if that's the case, like there's ways that we want to improve on it. We are asking for your ideas to feel comfortable enough to pitch in and give us your feedback as to what your ideas are, and maybe we could collaborate in a certain way and use those things to kind of make it more expansive and supportive for everyone involved. um, I I would like to be able to do this work in a more organized and structured way. But right now, I have, as I said, I'm a single mom, and I have my laptop which got broken, and I did um, have it evaluated, and it's gonna have some cost in it to get it fixed and up running so that I could do this work more efficient. And I'm going to be asking for support to help to get this computer up and running, to get it fixed. And so we're going to do a fundraising campaign so that we could work together and, hopefully people will support, and I could get it up and running so that I could be more progressive with this work. So this is what I wanted to say. I know we are after 8, and usually the 8 o'clock is our cutoff point. So, but it's all going to be, we're going to put it on the website and have everything set up with all the information.
Or on the
so
Facebook page, right? Yeah.
Facebook page, yes, Grace Between Races, and so we could take it further from here.
Mm-hmm. So that'll come probably in the next week or week and a half or so. And so thank you, Ike, for continuing this conversation and supporting us.
Thank you. Yeah.
And also I want to give us a moment to thank our ancestors and our guides and teachers and benefactors and also the ancestors of the land for supporting this reconciliation work that we are in together. Yeah, and one last note to say that we are going to have a call next week, as long as it can, our guest decides to join us, and his name is Kevin Goodman, and he's a professor of social justice studies and social justice practice, and actually has been teaching at UMass Amherst the last couple years, and he's a man of mixed race and gay, and has incredible spirit and joyous presence, and so we're excited to have him join us and share what it's been like for him to become a PhD and be teaching about this from this experience of being a mixed race queer man. So join us next week for that, and he'll probably talk about some education work and doing social justice and his process of realizing he's wanting to explore embodiment more fully as well. All right, so thanks again, and have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, sweet.